at Matt Pauley on air, MattPauley on air. And for those of you who are with us on the YouTube and the Twitter stream, you can just leave a comment, and we will certainly get to those as we go through the program today. And leave the comment wherever you're watching, wherever you are watching the video. We are here for you, and would love to be able to talk to you. So the Cardinals lose today. They scored 9 runs on 13 hits. This is so. When we're this early on in the season, for me, this is going to sound weird. I am worried about wins and losses. Like, you can't have a slow start to the season. That's what we've talked about. If you bury yourself early, I'm not sure if this team is built to be able to come back from that. I also think that if you bury yourself early, it might give the organization motivation to move some pieces that could help you win games this year. So it becomes that much more challenging to come back. So I'm worried about wins and losses in the sense that I don't want them to be buried. I want this to be a fun season where they are contending for a playoff spot. All of that being said, I am as much interested in that as I am interested in this team doing the things that will lead to victories. You know, Oliver Marmol, and if you missed it, I'll play the beginning of his pregame or his postgame today, because I thought it was interesting what he said to open things up, and we'll jump off this. So, courtesy of FanDuel Sports Network Midwest, this is how Oliver Marmol opened up his postgame media session today.
I'll start with something a little different. I love where we're at as far as how our club is going about it. If you play the game the way we played today over time, that's a good thing. Obviously, on the pitching side, not what we wanted to see out of Fedde, and a couple different knocks there against the relievers with Fernandez and King that leads to runs. But just the overall approach has been strong, and the guys continue to get after. So super happy about that, Fedde.
Yeah, so that's the main point that I want to get to. If you keep playing the way you're playing right now, outside of pitching, outside of relief pitching more than anything else. So Eric Fedde wasn't good today, but starting pitching has been fine for the most part to start the season. If you play the way you play today, if you go collect double-digit hits, if you continue to be relentless in your at-bats, if you continue to just charge and charge and charge, I think that's, you know, as the personality of this team begins to develop and continues to be cultivated, I think what we're seeing through the first 7 games of the year is that it is a team that is going to, to be cliche about it, until that 27th out is recorded, they're going to keep on going. They're down by a bunch today. They score 3 runs in the 9th inning, and they get the tying run to the plate, and they force Boston to bring in Aroldis Chapman. And you know what? That might pay out some dividends in this series. If Chapman comes into the game tomorrow and he's not very good, we look back to today. If they don't use Chapman tomorrow, which I wouldn't think, the fact that he threw 10 pitches today would result in him in all likelihood not being used tomorrow. But if something's going on where he doesn't feel good tomorrow, you connect it to being used today. So, baseball connects from one day to the next. That's one of the beautiful things about this game. And that's why it does matter that you keep on going. Cardinals may not have won the game today, but they may have won tomorrow's game because of what happened today, or maybe not. Like, you do this 1,000 times and maybe it impacts the game 20 times. Like, I'm just throwing numbers out there to make a point. You don't know when it's going to have the impact on that next day, but it can have the impact, and you just have to keep going about it. And we talked about this during the Redbird Rush Hour with Kevin Wheeler. That's probably my biggest question, or not even question, but the thing that I'm most intrigued by moving forward. I've been so impressed by this Cardinals team and the relentless approach that they take at the plate. But I'm also smart enough to know that that's hard to sustain over 162 games. It's kind of like playoff basketball and playing defense. You watch the NBA, and people say, oh, they don't play defense in the NBA. That's not true. They play defense in the NBA, but they find a new level of defensive intensity when they get to the playoffs. It it almost in the regular season, it almost looks like they're not playing defense in the NBA because the athletes are so good in that league. And then you compare it to what it looks like in the playoffs, and you go, man, those guys aren't playing in the regular season. They're playing defense, they're working hard, but you can't play playoff style defense in the NBA over 82 games. It's impossible. That is something that you cannot sustain. Nobody tries it. That's not the way you survive the year. I know this is not an apples to apples comparison. The effort and energy that goes into playing defense in a basketball game is not the same as what you're trying to do in a relentless approach at the plate. I understand. My analogy is flawed, and I'm well aware of that, and I will accept the fact that it's flawed, but I think you can see through its flaws to see the point that I'm trying to make. It is not easy to be a team where 1 through 9 every single day you've got guys who are giving just these great professional at bats and just grinding pitchers. And that's what we have seen from the Cardinals here in the early going. And if they can keep that up for most of the season or a lot of the season, if that's something that most guys do most nights, well, then this team's going to be fine. This team is going to be fine. And again, that's part of the point that Oliver Marmol was making when he opened up his press conference. Does it stink that the Cardinals gave up 16 hits today? Yep. Does it stink that they gave up 13 runs? Yep. Does it stink that pitchers issued 8 walks? Yep. Does it stink that every pitcher that was used in the game today either gave up runs or inherited runners scored or both? Yeah, all that. None of that's good. I'm not sugarcoating a darn thing when I'm talking about this thing. I am accepting the facts for what it is. The box score in the pitching section for the Cardinals today, it is ugly. It does not look good. But they were still in it. They have that kind of day, and they still bring the tying run up to the plate. And if they can continue to have that kind of approach, if the pitching can get cleaned up a little bit, and I think, this all starts with your starting pitcher. Eric Fedde wasn't very good today. Sometimes the starting pitcher comes out and they just don't have it. And it was an emotional day in Boston. It was their opening day, yada, yada, yada. Not that that's an excuse. It's just part of the equation. All that is going on in this game. Eric Fedde wasn't good. And then things kind of unravel from there. And the bullpen was not especially good in this game either. You just hope that, I spend so much time talking about the Aroldis Chapman thing and how that maybe pays out dividends for the Cardinals later on in the series. At the same time, the Cardinals use a bunch of relief pitchers today, and I think for the most part, the guys who are used today create more questions than they do create answers. Like, how do you use Ryan Fernandez moving forward? Do you just trust him based off what he did last year? Because last year he was fantastic. He made 62 appearances last year in a 3.51 ERA, struck out 71 and 66 and 2/3 innings. He was really, really good. This year, not good. He has appeared in 4 games. He has given up runs in 3 of the games. He has given up 7 runs in 3 and 2/3 innings. He has a 14 ERA. Like, it's not good. And it's a tiny sample size, and he has a track record of last year. But I think you do start to question when do you use him. And Oliver Marmol even said in his post-game media session today that Fernandez is working on some things. So it's going to be intriguing to watch as we move forward. 314-436-7900, 314-436-7900. That's how you call. That's how you text. You can tweet at me if you'd like, at Matt Pauley on air. Our good friend Jacob Sersasimo from Channel 4. He joins us coming up in just a moment or so. This is Graybar Sports Open Line on KMOX.
We get it. Attention spans just aren't what they used to be. Heads in social media and eyes on Netflix. But what do people do with their ears? Well, for one, they're listening to audio. Americans spend 4.4 hours with audio every day. Oh, and you want the proof? Well, you just sat through this ad that's now approaching 30 seconds. What
There'll be exciting prizes and delicious food. See you there.
News, talk, cars. 104.1 FM KMOX.
It's a Gray Bar Sports Open Line right here on KMOX, taking you until 8 o'clock tonight. We've got a lot of sports on KMOX today. We started early in the day when we got into Cardinals pregame around 12 noon. Actually had a little bit of the Gas House game before that, right at 12. And we're taking you all the way till 8 o'clock this evening. Very happy to welcome back onto the show. Friend of the program. You see him on First Alert 4. You see him on Matrix Midwest. You follow him on Twitter at Jacob Sersasimo. It's our good friend Jacob Sersasimo. And Jacob, last time we were on with you, we were talking about the raincoat. Today, it has just been raining nonstop. So clearly, rain has to be part of our conversations when you come on.
Yeah, I'm not working today, so the raincoat has taken a back seat. But yeah, I am actually looking at it in my apartment right now. And if I go outside, the Channel 4 raincoat is coming out.
Okay. Oh, so you use it at home. Like, do you have a dog?
I don't have a dog, but I do like to be outside. I do see some lightning right now, so I probably won't be outside tonight. But tomorrow, I think we're getting rain as well, so it'll come out in the next couple days.
Okay, but so if you did have a dog, you would feel comfortable enough to go out and be amongst the other people that live in your apartment complex, sporting the First Alert 4 rain jacket.
Yeah, it's the only raincoat I have, so okay. I don't really know if I have a choice.
All right, fair enough. So. Cardinals baseball, they are off to an interesting start. They're above 500. They lose today. They're scoring a ton of runs. They're getting a bunch of hits. Pitching has been hit or miss. Starting pitching, mostly good. The bullpen been a little iffy. What's kind of your general takeaway from what you've seen in the first week plus of the Cardinal season?
My general takeaway is they've gotten 10 hits in every game they've had this year. And you look at last year and everybody kept looking at, are these guys going to be able to hit? Are we going to get consistent hits? What's going to be happening in the batter's box? And then you look at this year, and they have been able to do that. Even with Wilson Contreras and Mason Wynn struggling to start the season, they are still getting 10-plus hits in a game. So I think that's a really good sign. And it was interesting. Tamar Scher actually talked to Brant Brown, the hitting coach for the Cardinals a couple days ago when they were back at Busch. And part of the interview, he mentioned, we don't necessarily look at what the pitchers are going to do to us, rather what we're going to do to them. And I thought that was a really interesting soundbite. And we ran it on air that night, but just an interesting way to look at things. And I think that's like a control your controllables type thing with this team. And it takes a certain amount of confidence not to really care what anybody else is going to do and solely focus on how you are going to punish the other team. And I think when you look at this team right now, and there's a lot of young guys, building that confidence with them, I think can only be a good thing. So right now, I know the pitching has been hit or miss a little bit, but I'm looking at the batting and it's been looking pretty good so far.
Yeah, it's looked fantastic. And just the whole Brant Brown storyline of everything he's done, we've heard guys talk in the clubhouse about, there's times to just collect hits and there's times to actually like slug and, look for a double, look for a gap, look for a home run, that sort of thing. Just the approach and the way that they are very, they're thinking through things, it seems like, at the plate a little bit more than maybe they have previously.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think it shows with how they're hitting. You got guys like Ivan Herrera, who went yard 3 times the other day, goes yard again today. And the confidence is there. I think when you look at a young team, and this isn't the Cardinals, this is in sports in general. When you look at a really young team, they can ride the highs and lows of a season really high and low. And I think what this team has done really well, and what I'm seeing from this team, being in the clubhouse, covering this team over the last year and a half with this young group, is their confidence doesn't fluctuate with how they're doing. And I think that's a really strong quality for a young team. And some of it, I think, does go back to Goldschmidt last year on how you interview Goldschmidt after he goes 4 for 4 with 4 home runs. He's the same as if he goes 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts. Like he is about as level-headed as they come in this league. He mentions every time it's a long season, it's a long season, it's a long season. And I think some of that mentality carries over into this year with these guys where they're like, it doesn't matter. We think we're really good. And I think Mason Wynn's the same way. Him and Wilson Contreras go 0 for 37 in the first, few games combined. And then they don't blink. They go, we know we're going through a slump. and we'll get back and we're not worried about it. And I think that confidence is a sign of a really good team.
Yeah, at the same time, it does feel like with a Paul Goldschmidt gone and this position player group, I believe, is the second youngest position player group in all of Major League Baseball. We're seeing energy and excitement and fun, and all that seems to be a little bit more pronounced. And maybe that goes along with the winning more than anything else through those first 6 games at home. But it feels like some of these younger guys have been allowed to kind of take some ownership of this team.
Absolutely. And I could completely be wrong with what I'm saying right now, but I do think a lot of it comes with front office being very open about the youth movement and the way they're coming into this year, because I feel like we've seen the exact same thing with the Blues over the last few years where they go, we're going to rebuild, we're going to reset a little bit. And it's given the confidence for these young players to come in like a Jake Neighbors and be like, okay, if they're not worried about, if I don't score any goals this game, but they know that I'm building, I'm just going to let my hair down and be able to play freely. And I think this year you might see that a little bit with these guys, these young guys. Jordan Walker's up here. And, Victor Scott II getting the start in center field on opening day and being kind of a mainstay out there. They're not afraid to, go for their shots and go for their chances at times because they know, they're going to be able to stay up here and learn because the front office has been very open about it being a youth movement. So I think that has a lot to do with them feeling confident right now.
Let's talk a little bit about the Blues before we get you out here, because they have been, they are something special right now, having won 11 straight games, which ties a franchise record. Jacob, I don't know about you, but even these games where like they're down late or they're tied late, it's gotten to a point now where I almost expect something good, something amazing to happen. And it's been a long time since I felt that way about the Blues. It's really incredible watching what they're doing right now.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And it's been so much fun to watch and so much fun to be like in the locker room and interviewing these players and Monty and talking with them about this historic run they're going on. I think when you look at this Blues team, the biggest, I think, upside for a really good team, you watch any really good team, and even when they don't play well, they somehow find ways to win, because when they're not their best, they can still win. And when you look at what they did last night, they gave up a 2-goal lead in the third period, and all of a sudden you're thinking, they didn't play very well, and then they somehow find a way to win. And I think that's been kind of a sign of a really, really good team post Four Nations break. It's incredible. This team has really been a tale of two teams, pre Four Nations break and post Four Nations break, but how they've been able to play, how they've rallied around each other, and they seem like they're having a lot of fun. And I think that's a sign of a really good team. Losing Dylan Holloway last night, I think, is going to be tough. But I remember when Parayko went out a few weeks ago, and no one was sounding the alarm. But I think from the outside looking in, everyone's wondering, well, he's having one of the best seasons for a defenseman in the league. How are they going to recover from this? And then they recover from it very well, and they've won 11 straight. So I think the buy-in of this team and what they're doing and the comfortability with each other is remarkable, and I think that has a lot to do with them winning 11 straight and going for 12 tomorrow.
Holloway considered week to week, so we'll see when he gets back. He might be back in a week or so, but they're going to move Jimmy Snuggerud up there to the top line. It's going to be fun to see what he can do. It seems like he is acclimating himself well early on in his NHL career.
Yeah, I think if you're not necessarily a hockey person and you're watching, you're wondering, he got his first point last night with his pass to Jake Neighbors, and you're kind of looking at what he's doing when he has the puck. But when you talk to Monty and when you talk to guys in the locker room, they're talking about what he does without the puck. I mean, Monty was going to throw him in overtime on Tuesday night. He said he was ready to throw him over the boards, and that was his NHL debut. It's what he does without the puck, and then his way to react quickly and be a good player with the puck in a fast pace that they're really looking at and impressed with. And I think when you're looking at his overall play, there's so much to be impressed with. He's not very old. He's just 20 years old, but the way that he's been adapting to the fast pace and not really trying to do too much. I think, when it gets a little faster pace, guys will panic or whatever.
Yeah.
He still seems very calm out there, which is a sign of a really good player. So I think, moving him up and getting him on a different line, I think is only going to help him mature and help him keep going. But I think he's going to be nothing but beneficial for this playoff run.
Yeah, I think so. And it's great for him to be able to be placed in this, and also the trust that you put in him. You've got things going at the level that the Blues have going right now, and they're confident enough to put him in this where you almost don't want to mess with anything. I think that says a lot about him and what they think about him as well.
I think it does as well. One of the most unique things I think about this entire run is well, not me. Randy Carricker had Doug Armstrong on The Fight that's on Matrix Midwest on weekday mornings the other day, and we ran some of it in news at night. But a really interesting thing that Army said is a lot of people are comparing this team to 2019, and Army was like, that team was built to be good, and then they just started the year not very good. He goes, this team is built to be good throughout like the next few years, and they're on fire right now and the best team in hockey, which I think is such a remarkable thing to look at. This team isn't necessarily built to be good right now. The young players they bring in Broberg, they bring in Holloway, and then they have, Jake Neighbors, and they bring in Snuggerud, and Dvorsky gets a taste of the NHL. And they have so many young guys. You look at like Tyler Tucker, and even on defense, like they have so many really young guys, and they're on an absolute heater and the best team in the game right now. Like this team isn't built for this right now, but they're doing this right now. Like everything they're doing, I feel like, is playing with house money at this point and really a look at the future. And this experience they're getting right now, playing in front of a packed house at Enterprise Center, playing in the playoffs, being able to play in these important games, I can't help but look in the next few years of what the Blues are going to be with the leadership of Braden Shen and keeping Robert Thomas around and Bennington and Ned, and then this young crew led by Jake Neighbors, and right behind him, you're going to have Jimmy Snuggerud. This is going to be a really good team for years to come.
How frustrated are like the Calgarys and the Vancouvers of the world that they were in a really good spot like 2-3 weeks ago, and they've won a fair amount of games, but my goodness, they just, and even Minnesota, who now the Blues have been able to scoot by. These teams that are around the Blues have to be incredibly frustrated as they watch a team go on an 11-game win streak.
You have to be so upset. Like if you're these teams, you have to be so upset. I mean, Army's been open about this team isn't built to win, like to be really, really, really good right now. And they're the best team in the league. And if for these other teams, you've gone out and you have really good veteran leadership and you're built to win in your somewhat window. And if you look at the Blues, they got to be right at the beginning of whatever their window is moving forward. And they're the best team in hockey and they're getting all the press and they're having so much fun. It looks like a bunch of young guys just beating up on the entire league. And then you have these other teams like Minnesota and Calgary and Vancouver that are ready to win right now. And you're just getting beat by, a young core led by a fearless Braden Shen. These teams have to be so upset, and moving into the playoffs, these teams have to be so mad. But I think that's the best part about this team is they are embracing that role and they're loving being able to be the young bully.
Jacob Sersasimo, you see him on Channel 4, First Alert 4, KMOV, also Matrix Midwest, which is their sister station, which has a ton of sports programming on it. They've had some Blues games. They're going to have some more. Matrix Midwest is like taking over the world, right, Jacob?
Yeah, I love Matrix Midwest. We kind of knew about this last year because we did the Mizzou Live, the pre and post game show on Matrix Midwest, and that was kind of the first thing we had under our belt, and we as a sports department could kind of feel where this was going. Now, I will say majority of the decision making on Matrix Midwest is over our head. It's not necessarily us. So we didn't really know where it was going, but we could feel the momentum coming with Matrix Midwest and then really coming with, the Blues games and then the announcements of the Cardinals games. You could really feel the momentum coming behind Matrix Midwest. And all you really need is an antenna. So it's a really easily accessible way to watch sports and get some of the sports programming that we're putting out there. So I really enjoy it. And I think it's kind of a fun, different way to watch sports and get sports content for sure.
Follow Jacob on Twitter at Jacob Sersasimo. Jacob, great to talk to you. We'll see you at the ballpark when the team gets back to town.
For sure, Matt. Thank you.
All right, very good. Jacob Sersasimo joining us here on the program. We're going to jump back into the Cardinals. Have gotten some comments about the team, both on the video stream and also on the text line that we'll get to in just a moment. If you want to chime in on the Cardinals, you can do so by calling, texting, or tweeting, or leaving you can leave a voice message on the Odyssey app. You can also leave a post on the video stream. So if you call or text, phone number is 314-436-7900, 314-436-7900. If you tweet at me, it's at Matt Pauley on air. If you leave a message on the video stream, you just leave a message on the video stream and it pops up on my screen and we can read that as well. So we'll do that coming up in just a moment. Your opportunity to chime in on the Cardinals. We're back in a moment. It is a Graybar Sports Open Line on KMOX.
Hi, I'm Amy Mark Scores.
And I'm Chris Ranji. Look, we get it. The world's
OX, the voice of St. Louis.
Back at it on the Gray Bar Sports Open Line right here on KMOX. My name is Matt Pauley. Always try to take an opportunity here during Sports Open Line on days of weekday day games where we don't get to take the phone calls and do the messages and everything in the extra inning show. Try to do that in Sports Open Line. So if you do want to chime in on the game today, this is your opportunity to do so. You can call, you can text, you can tweet. If you call or text, it's 314-436-7900, 314-436-7900. If you tweet at me, it's at Matt Pauley on air, MattPauley on air. Let's get to some of the comments that have come in via the text line from the 618. Says, kudos to the Cards offense for putting up a good fight today. I think it was good. You don't get any points for like bringing the tying run up to the plate in the ninth inning, but you can look at it and say that was a team that didn't give up, and you certainly appreciate that. For the 573 says, tough loss, but I like the fight that the Cards have. They don't give up. That's the makings of a good club. What's going on with Hernandez? He's given up runs in every one of his outings. He is struggling right now. He absolutely is struggling, and it doesn't look good. Like sometimes to start the season, guys are struggling, but you still you see it. You got confident that that's all going to come together. That's not Ryan Fernandez right now. Now, to be just for the in the state for fact of those to be truthful and factual about everything, his first outing he did not give up a run. He's given up runs in 3 of his 4 outings, but yeah, that's he hasn't looked good. He has not looked good to get things going, and I don't know how much leash he has. I think that's one of the questions I have right now that I don't know. 314 says, I get that Wilson Contreras should be in the lineup. Where in the lineup? Not 2, 3, or 4 right now. I disagree. And I understand why you would say that. Like, I totally understand why you see a guy who's really, really struggling, take him out of the 2-hole. For a lot of guys, you do that. For, let's go to a hypothetical situation just because like I can't think of like an actual situation. So we'll go to a hypothetical one. Let's say Mason Wynn would have started off the year as the leadoff hitter, and he would have started the year offensively doing what he's doing right now. If we have the conversation about, get Wynn out of the leadoff spot, put him down to the bottom of the order, take pressure off him, yada, 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 like I'm all in on that. So this is not like a concept that I'm against. But with Contreras, I don't think it does anything. The team's scoring a ton of runs. So Contreras being in the 2-hole isn't hurting the team at all. If the team wasn't scoring runs, if the team wasn't collecting hits, and you were trying to get the offense going, well, then maybe we have that discussion. Maybe I'm still probably not, but maybe we have that discussion. But the team doesn't need to move Wilson Contreras out of the 2 spot. They are doing perfectly fine from a run scoring and offensive standpoint with him there. There is more value in showing Wilson Contreras how much that you continue to believe in him as being the best hitter on the team, which he is, no matter how he's looked to start the season. He is the best hitter on the team. So is there a point that we keep going down this line if he doesn't start hitting where maybe I change my tune on this a little bit? Yeah. Like you cross lines as you go on something and you don't really know where those lines are, but I'm not to that point at this point at all. Ball Game, who's a regular texter in, says, glad all the opening day stuff is over. All the festivities can mess with the pitcher's rhythm and routine. Says, I want to talk about Lars Nootbaar. I'm old school. I thought he should be hitting in a lineup slot to drive in runs. However, I can't help but notice what great ABs he's taken so far this season. He's become a catalyst for the team. When you think of baseball saying that hitting is contagious, it might be a direct correlation of seeing pitches and working the count. Love what he's doing so far. With the way the lineup is set up at the bottom, he ends up being in that traditional RBI spot while taking pressure off the young guys that may not be ready for the top of the lineup. Yeah, the way lineups are built has changed a little bit in years. You want your best hitters in the top 3 spots because that's why the number 2 hitter is generally your best hitter on the team. So you want your leadoff hitter to be a guy who can get on base. If they can do other things as well, like Lars Nootbaar, he can hit home runs. He can do a lot of things, but he can get on base. He's going to have a high on base percentage. That's the key for the leadoff hitter. And then you want your second hitter to be the best hitter on the team because you're going to get him some more at bats during the course of the year. A number 2 hitter is going to get what? he's going to get an extra at bat compared to the 7 or 8 hitter or even the 4 hitter in a bunch of games as the season goes along. So you give yourself the opportunity to score the most amount of runs by getting your best hitters as many at bats as possible. So the whole idea of historically maybe having your best hitter in the 4 spot because you got 3 guys in front of them that can all get on base. That's kind of antiquated thinking. And now what you do is you try to get them into the top 3 spots to be able to get them more at bats. So I love Lars Nootbaar in the top spot. I love Wilson Contreras in the second spot. Contreras is going to get going. He is. I love him in that spot. It just might take a little while. Let's grab Bill, who's giving us a call. Hey, Bill, you're on the Gray Bar Sports Open Line.
Hey, I just like to take a chance here to tell you guys that Sports Open Line's been a big part of my life for a long time. I go back 50 years to listen to Bob Burns and Sunday morning sports, et cetera. And Matt, I think you're the key to this whole thing working so well. St. Louis is very fortunate to have you come back and have the knowledge you have as well as the roots that you have. And thank you for you being here and enlightening us. And look forward to hearing from you all the time.
Oh, Bill, that's an incredibly nice and gracious phone call to send in. I don't even know what to say. Did I pay Bill to say that? No, I'm kidding. But that's a really nice thing to say. That made my day. Thank you, Bill. I appreciate it. I love doing this every day, and I appreciate the fact that people turn on their radios to listen to me. It's kind of a crazy thing sometimes that people want to turn on their radios and listen to me talk at them about baseball. But here we are, and that's what we're going to keep doing in just a moment, right here on KMOX.
You might know Gray Bar for cable and connectivity, but there's one more thing you should know us for that can help optimize your project's total value, like our comprehensive electronic solutions for security, AV, wireless, and networking, or our specialized job site services like material staging and kitting, or maybe our logistics specialist who can help you identify efficiencies and ensure just-in-time delivery. So consider what one more thing you may need to optimize your bottom line and get to know us for that. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
A great lawn is like a great sports team. It takes expertise and a little extra care to really stand out. Now, that's where True Green comes in. They're the official lawn care treatment provider of the PGA Tour, so they know a thing or two about keeping grass looking like a fairway. Now, here's the best part. It's more affordable than you think, and they'll even match any competitor's price. Plus, True Green backs it all up with a satisfaction guarantee. Not happy? They'll come back between visits to make it right. Don't wait. Head to TrueGreen.com today. Let the pros do the work while you sit back and enjoy the results.
Get ready for a country music extravaganza. It's Clint Black coming to Family Arena this April 12th. KMOX has your chance to win a pair of tickets to see Clint Black.
Now I'm walking in the moonlight. Nothing but the tail light.
Register now at KMOX.com/contest for your time to win.
Need a lawyer? Onder wins. Call Onder Law at 314-9-million. That's 314-9 all zeros. Or go to onderwins.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely on advertisements.
If you're drowning in IRS debt and can't afford to pay, then you need to take advantage of special IRS tax programs that are available and free yourself from IRS collection efforts once and for all. Due to the financial hardship consumers are facing throughout the country, the Internal Revenue Service has made it easier to settle delinquent tax problems. An open phone line has been established by Community Tax for consumers to call and see if they qualify. Take down this number or store it in your cell phone, but call the Community Tax Helpline at 800-536-9607. If you owe back taxes to the IRS and cannot afford to pay them back, or even if you have years of unfiled tax returns, there's no need to fear anymore. But you have to call the Community Tax Help.
Welcome back to the Gray Bar Sports Open Line. Once again, Matt Pauley on KMOX.
We do welcome you back in, taking you till 8 o'clock this evening. Still on the way today. We're going to talk with our friend Levi Weaver. He writes the Wind Up MLB newsletter for The Athletic. We'll talk all things Major League Baseball with him. Also, Tom Ackerman's got a conversation with former Blue Jamal Mayers. A little bit about the Blues, who are awesome right now. They're always awesome because they're the Blues, but they're like playing awesome right now. Also talk a little bit about the Frozen Four coming up, because Jamal is a Western Michigan product, and they're going to be part of the did I say Final Four? I meant Frozen Four. If I said that, Frozen Four. But that's coming up here next week, next Thursday and Saturday, over at the Enterprise Center, which is just awesome that St. Louis is able to host that event. A really, really cool event, and obviously the city of St. Louis and the folks over at the Sports Commission and everybody involved in hosting, they know what they're doing, and it's a chance for us to really put a spotlight on how great of a sports community we are. So we'll talk some Western Michigan hockey with Jamal Mayers coming up in the second hour of the program. Text comes in, or actually a message on the video channel says from Kelly, what about the interference play? Was that a game breaker? I don't think so. First off, I think the run was going to score no matter what. I think they got it right. I don't think the collision there in right field stopped the run, prompted the run scoring. So from a spirit of the rule standpoint, I think they got it right. They did have the runner come back to first base. Now this is not an original thought. Whenever somebody says something, that I always try to give credit. I think it may have been Brendan Schaefer on Twitter who said this. If it wasn't him, it was somebody. But what would have happened in that situation if, like, Walker has the collision and gets tangled up and then drops the ball? Like, at that point, do you rule that the ball got dropped because of that? And would that then change the way things went down? Would have that forced the runner to be taken back to third, and then you have the have the hitter be ruled out because of it? I don't know. Again, and that's something that I don't think Jordan Walker in that situation is going to be like, I'm going to fake this collision, act like I'm going to get tangled up, and then I'm going to drop the ball and act like the ball got dropped because of the collision. Like, that's a lot of things to think through in that situation. But that is one area where if the ball would have come loose in that, I'm not quite sure how they would have ended up ruling that play. But I think they got it right, and I don't think the Cardinals got messed over on that. I do think, and I don't think this is why the Cardinals lost the game, but holy moly, was Eric Fetty got squeezed in the first inning or two. There were multiple. Today was one of those days where I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, gosh, I really wish they had the replay system. I think the final score of this game would have looked different if the replay system was in place. And I know I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth. Just deal with me for a second. If some of those strikes are, because they were strike threes, if some of those are outs instead of what turns into runners getting aboard, and it's a different score, we're talking about a 4-run ball game. We're talking about a game where the tying run came to the plate late. Like, maybe it is a different game. I don't think, again, I don't feel like that's the reason they lost the game, but at the same time, it just feels like those missed calls today had an impact on the game for sure. And I just get this automated strike zone in, get the replay system in. What we saw in spring training was so good. It was so good. I know there's like infrastructure that has to go along with it. You have to make sure that the system can be installed at every ballpark and they're ready to go with it. Like, it's not just something where you can snap a finger and every ballpark can have it tomorrow. Like, I understand that. I also understand that, like, even trying to implement it early would require an agreement between players and owners, because the two sides would have to come together on it, and players and owners can't agree. Even if they agree on something, they can't officially agree on something. The two sides just are always like bickering back and forth. But if there was a way just to put this in place right now, who is saying no? Who's saying no? I've made this joke a couple times. It's a joke, but it's also totally true. The only person who has said a single negative thing about this system that we saw in spring training was Max Scherzer. Scherzer didn't like it. I don't even remember at this point why he didn't like it. He was doing an interview and he talked about not liking it. The details of that interview have left my mind. All I remember was like, this, why does this? Come on, Max. It makes all the sense in the world. So in the grand scheme of things, it's going to come in next year. I have no doubt in my mind that this thing is going to be implemented next year. This year in spring training, it was the test run, so everybody could kind of get used to it. They could try to work out any kinks that they needed to work out. I don't think they have to work out much. It was really good. It adds something to the game presentation because everybody's at the edge of their seat when the graphic comes up on the video board, and it's like tennis where you're watching where the ball is going to go, if it's going to get into the strike zone or not. It is one of the things that you can add to the game that adds it. You add it to the game to add to the game, and I am 100% in favor of that. And I can't wait for it to be in place. All right, we'll take a break. Have more in a moment right here on KMOX.
The biggest piano sale of the year is being held at the Muni starting Thursday, April 3rd through Sunday, April 6th. Hi, this is
on KMOX.
Back at it as we are into hour number 2 of the program. If you'd like to join us, you can do so. Calling, texting 314-436-7900. Tweet at me at Matt Pauley on air. If you're watching us on the video stream, you can leave a comment, and we'll get to those as we go through the program. Still on the way. We got a lot coming up. Busy 7 o'clock hour. Levi Weaver, our friend from The Athletic, he writes the Wind Up MLB newsletter for The Athletic. He's going to join us in about 15 minutes. And then we've got a conversation that Tom Ackerman recorded with former Blue Jamal Mayers. He is going to talk some Blues hockey. He's also going to talk some Frozen 4 action, which is going to take place later on this, next week, Thursday and Saturday. I'm already moved into next week. We've still got some time left in this week before it comes to an end. It's going to be coming up on Thursday and Saturday over at the Enterprise Center. The semifinals on Thursday, and then the championship game will be coming up on Saturday. As mentioned, 314-436-7900. That's how you give us a call. That's exactly what Tom has done. Hey, Tom, you're on Sports Open Line.
Hey, Matt. Thanks for taking my call. I got something that I see in front of me, and I don't know if it's got any merit or not. But why don't we use Contreras back behind the plate and put our catcher who can't throw on first base?
Because they want Contreras to stay healthy all season long and be able to play. That's they feel like there's a better chance of getting 150 plus games from Contreras if he plays at first base. That his bat out. Contreras is not a great defensive catcher. We're not talking. Is he better than Ivan Herrera? Sure, and especially from a throwing standpoint and controlling the run game. I'm not telling you that Contreras isn't better than Herrera. Tommy, he absolutely is, but his bat is much more important than anything he does from a defensive standpoint. So that's why they made the move, and I do agree with it.
Well, do you think, though, that if Contreras went to a designated hitter and used Pegas behind the plate, and we can just switch through the three of them when we are in a position to do that, why put all this pressure on and let everybody know that this other man can't throw? He can hit like crazy, as we all know, but I just think that there's a three-way triangle there that we're not using, and it could be done very easily.
Yeah, I appreciate the phone call. I don't think it can't be done easily because Contreras hasn't been a catcher here recently. Like you're not just going to all of a sudden wake up tomorrow morning and tell him he's got to start catching again after he's done so much work to be a first baseman. That's part of his past now, and putting him behind the plate makes him more susceptible to injury. And they think that the way to keep him healthy is to have him as a first base DH combo. And I think they're right in that. And it's going to, if he does, I have no doubt in my mind that Contreras is going to get things going offensively. And if you get 150 plus games out of Wilson Contreras and he hits you 30 to 40 home runs and he drives in close to 100 runs and he does all the things that you expect him to do, you're going to feel really good about the fact that you made that decision. Now, to your larger point is spot on. Your larger point is spot on about Ivan Herrera. And I can tell you that I watched him in spring. I was down in Florida watching him, and I thought his throwing arm looked significantly better than anything we have ever seen from him before. We haven't seen that yet in the regular season. Part of me wonders if he's gotten into his head a little bit. This thing that they're going to do where they're just going to allow him to throw from his knees. I don't think that's going to help so much. This is not going to be a long-term problem, though, because of who the Cardinals have coming behind them. Pedro Pages, I think, is a fantastic young backup catcher. And you got a couple guys in Jimmy Crooks, who's going to be here sooner than you know, and Leonardo Bernal's not far behind him. And these guys are good defensive catchers. They've got good bats as well. Like at some point in time, not all those guys are going to be on the roster. So at some point in time, you're going to be making decisions about, do we keep a guy at catcher or do we just move on from him and try to get something for him because there's no room at the end. There's no room on the roster. And I think what could play out, because Jimmy Crooks is at AAA right now, there is going to be an injury at some point for either Ivan Herrera or Pedro Pages. I have a hard time believing that both those catchers are going to stay healthy for 162 games and that neither one of them will have a stint on the injured list. That is very unlikely. I don't know if it's ever happened in Major League Baseball. It certainly hasn't happened in recent years where a team has carried 2 catchers for the entire season and never had a third catcher on the roster at some point in time. That is something that just doesn't happen. So Jimmy Crooks's first job is to perform at AAA. That's his first job. If he performs at AAA, at some point you would think he's going to get the big league opportunity. If he gets to the big leagues and he looks good, I think that's the moment where you say, how do you get the most out of this roster? And do you get the most out of the roster by having some sort of combination of Pedro Pages and Jimmy Crooks behind the plate and using Ivan Herrera more as a DH down the stretch of the season? I don't think this is a tomorrow conversation. We talked about this a little bit today on the Redbird Rush Hour with Kevin Wheeler. He brought it up, so I'm very happy to talk about it again because I think it's something that we could kind of look down the line. And this is a conversation that bluntly and honestly we're probably having in July and August, unless the Herrera thing behind the plate just like gets really bad. Like, I don't think it's really bad right now. I think right now it's just if a guy's on at first, he knows he can take second. But if it gets to a point where balls are being thrown to the outfield all the time, or pitchers are starting to be impacted because they feel like they can't even allow a single base runner because they know they're going to be at second, and that's having a negative impact on the team. If those things start happening, then it's a different discussion. But for now, they're going to move forward with the way it is. I mentioned these numbers earlier during the Redbird Rush Hour. Let's put in again 1 week of a season, right? 7 games, tiny sample size. But let's put in context just how good Ivan Herrera has been at the plate. Has a 400 batting average. That's good for 8th in Major League Baseball. His home run total is sitting at 4. That's good for tied for 3rd in Major League Baseball. Only Aaron Judge and Eugenio Suarez have more. His RBI total, 11. Only Aaron Judge has more. His slugging percentage is at 1,100. Only Aaron Judge has a better slugging percentage. His OPS is at 1555. Only Aaron Judge and Wheeler Abreu, who they're playing right now with Boston. Only those 2 guys have better OPSs right now. So he is putting up elite numbers, elite, big time, all-star, like MVP caliber type numbers through 7 games. It's at some point it's going to slow down, very much buoyed by the fact that he had a 3 home run game. But if he continues to put up those kind of numbers, I think for a while you just live with what he is defensively. And are there going to be some runs that you give up because of who he is defensively? Is there going to be a time where a pitcher issues a leadoff walk and then the guy goes to second because he steals it easily, and then 2 ground balls later, the guy's in without a hit? Yeah, that's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to be frustrating. It's going to be annoying. And you're going to say, man, wish Herrera was just a little bit better behind the plate. Wish he controlled that run game just a little bit more. It'd be really good to have that. But then I think you have to go back and say, but you know what's better than that? You know what's better than having a catcher who can control the run game? Having a catcher who's 2nd in Major League Baseball in slugging percentage. A guy who statistically, offensively right now, you can only make the argument that Aaron Judge is having a better season right now than Ivan Herrera in all of Major League Baseball. That's pretty good. So you deal with it for a while. I think it's a different conversation late in the season. Like I said earlier with Kevin, if this team is a playoff team, the last thing you want to have happen is you lose a game or you allow a run to score in a really big moment because of Herrera behind the plate. So at some point as the season goes along, I think what you brought up, Tom, is going to be a bigger thing to talk about. I don't think it's a huge thing to talk about right now because of what he is doing from an offensive standpoint. We are going to take a break, and when we return, Levi Weaver is going to join us. He writes the Wind Up MLB newsletter for The Athletic. He's with us coming up in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. This is a Graybar Sports Open Line on KMOX.
ZipRecruiter is the place. ZipRecruiter is the place for talented teachers, savvy software developers, and master mixologists. ZipRecruiter is the place where you meet all these people and more. That's because ZipRecruiter is the place for job seekers who are looking for new opportunities. In fact, ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day, so you can find the right candidates right away. It's no wonder that ZipRecruiter is the place for skilled skydiving instructors, accomplished airbrush artists, and proficient pediatricians. But if you're not using ZipRecruiter to hire, you're missing out. ZipRecruiter is the place that's so confident it can make your hiring easier that it lets you try it for free at ziprecruiter.com/free. So if you want the right candidates for all your roles, ZipRecruiter is the place to go. Try it for free at ziprecruiter.com/free. That's ziprecruiter.com/free. Never miss out on great candidates with ZipRecruiter.
Hey, it's Matt Pauley. I love being able to tell you about i3 Broadband. They are the home internet provider in the Pauley household. I used to have the cable company. I got like the top tier internet from the cable company. And I was so frustrated because my internet felt like it was always going slow. I'm like, man, I'm paying for top tier internet here. Well, the problem actually was the download speed was fine, but the upload speed stunk. And sometimes the downloads have to wait for the uploads. So I learned about upload speed and download speeds being mirrored and how that impacts everything. And then I switched over to i3 and everything was completely different. And I'm spending a little bit less money. Now, they're kind of new. They've been around for a few years here in the market. They're adding new neighborhoods all the time. I see their trucks around. It's awesome. I'm always happy when I see their trucks because I know more neighborhoods are getting the opportunity. Put your address in, i3broadband.com, i3broadband.com. If you put your address in before and it wasn't there, put it in again, see if they're available. You're going to love it. They are the best internet provider out there, i3broadband.com.
Hey, fellow Gen Xers, it's Elizabeth Banks. Big news! The recommended age for pneumococcal pneumonia vaccination has been lowered to 50 and older, even if you're healthy. It's up to us to lead the charge. After all, we gave the world the internet. We're trailblazers. Let's lead the way again because we are at over 6 times greater risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Gen X, this is our shot. Head to vaxassist.com and schedule today. That's vaxassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Military veterans and active duty service members, you could become a certified cyber warrior with just 12 weeks of training at My Computer Career. Cybersecurity specialists are in high demand, and IT pros with these skills often enjoy abundant opportunity and a great lifestyle. Protect our people, liberty, and treasured institutions from cyber threats. SkillBridge and other VA benefits are available to those who qualify. Learn more at mycomputercareer.edu/CWP. That's mycomputercareer.edu/CWP.
We can get more sleep, we can get more sun, and we can get more exercise, but the one thing we can't get more of is time. It's time to eliminate the one phrase that could be holding you back from reaching
It's a Gray Bar Sports Open Line right here on KMOX. We are efforting right now. Levi Weaver from The Athletic. We hope to get him on the program at some point. If we don't get him tonight, we'll certainly get him at some point in the relatively near future. We're talking Major League Baseball. We're talking Cardinals baseball. Cardinals lose today to Boston by a 13-9 score. For the first time this year, the Cardinals are no longer the first place team in the division. The Cubs got a win today, so the Cubs at 6-4 have a half game lead on the Cardinals, and the Brewers are in third place, a game and a half back. Reds are 2.5 back, and the Pirates are 3 back. The Reds are dealing with a bunch of illness, like Terry Francona not managing tonight's game in Milwaukee. A bunch of guys are not going to be available as well, so dealing with some sickness at this point. We'll see what they do. That game is just underway there. Had a commenter on our YouTube stream ask about putting Luken Baker at first more often. Baker still leaves a little something to be desired defensively at first base. He's the third best option defensively at first base right now between Wilson Contreras, Alec Burleson, and then Luken Baker. In terms of guys who you would like there's other, you could put Brendan Donovan at first base and he's going to do just fine over there. So talking about guys who you would put at first base, I don't say that to denigrate Luken Baker. To me, it's an opportunity to bring up the conversation about Luken Baker and what he has done in a very short amount of time. And some of the stuff doesn't even show up really on the box score. So today, what shows up on the box score is he draws a walk, right? Well, let's break that down a little bit. So he comes up to the plate there in the 9th inning, and it's right when they go to Aroldis Chapman. So Baker comes off the bench, hasn't seen a single live pitch all day, and all of a sudden he's seen Aroldis Chapman velocity come at him. And what does he do? He lays off some tough pitches. He makes some great swing decisions, and he works a walk, and he puts the game in the position where Ivan Herrera, like the hottest hitter, one of the hottest hitters in all of Major League Baseball, comes up to the plate representing the tying run. So that was, it would have been great if Baker would have gotten a pitch to drive and could have driven it and could have added to it. But really for, at that point in time, the only run that actually mattered for the Cardinals was that fourth run, the Ivan Herrera run that was coming up next. And he got them to the plate. So that's an example of, that doesn't really go into the overall numbers that we are seeing right now from him, but you look at what he's done so far, very limited opportunities. He only has 7 at bats, but so far he's 3 for 7, a 4.29 average. He's got an OPS at about 1,200, and he's just doing a really nice job. And I thought he did a nice job at the end of the season last year. I did. I would argue that he looks even more comfortable. There's something about getting that first major league experience and, coming back the next year. And he did not have anything guaranteed for him coming into spring training. Absolutely nothing. And he played great in spring. He won himself a job. And now he's put himself in a position where you can trust him to come up with big at-bats late in games. And by the way, let's give credit for a second to something that was done in spring training, because the Cardinals did something with Baker that I don't know if I've ever seen it done before, because in spring training, the focus is always on just getting guys at bats, just getting their timing down, right? That's the idea of spring training. Well, what they did with Baker was totally different, where they specifically set him up to come into games late and to get a single at bat. And they wanted him to go through the routine of what it's like sitting and doing, not playing for the first 6-7 innings and then being ready to take an at bat. And whether that's in the 4th or 5th inning, getting into the cage and taking some swings, whatever the routine is going to be. And I'm sure some team at some point in time has done some version of that, because bluntly, it makes all the sense in the world. If that's the guy's job, if that's the guy's role, and that's what you want him to do, well, then have him working on that in spring training. But I can't think of a situation where I've ever seen a team do that. It's just not something, again, you get into spring and you sit there and you get guys at bats and you get guys their timing, and that's what the focus is on. So I give the Cardinals a lot of credit for being able to pull that off, and I really like what Luken Baker has done. I think he's going to have a really solid season for the team. I don't think he solves like the predicament that the team is in right now when it comes to, do you move Ivan Herrera from behind the plate to make him the DH? This roster doesn't work. That's the bottom line here. The roster doesn't work. When Nolan Arenado couldn't get traded, when they didn't pull off a trade for him, and I'm not saying that even I want them to trade Arenado, because he's off to a really nice start to his season as well. I mean, you look at the numbers that Arenado's putting up. He's playing great defense over at third. He's hitting .357. He's got an OPS above 1,000. I mean, this is a guy who's really contributing, and it looks like he's on the path to having a bounce back season this year for sure. But when he came back, the numbers just didn't work out, and that's why the team got stuck in this situation to start the year where it was almost like the either or of Nolan Gorman or Alec Burleson. And you want both those guys in the lineup every day, but the way it works right now, there's not room for each of those guys to be in. Now Gorman's injured right now, so we can kind of table that discussion for about the next week and a half or so as he sits out for the 10 days. I would have been curious to see if Gorman doesn't get hurt, if he doesn't have to go on the injured list. I would have been curious to see if he would have started getting some more time over Burleson as the DH, because after today, where Burleson had a 3-hit day, he's now hitting .333 with OPS just under 800. But before today, he was hitting .235 with a 610 OPS. So his 3-hit day today raised all those numbers and that's part of the early season and the small sample size and all that sort of stuff. It's really hard to evaluate. Like, should we really be evaluating Alec Burleson differently at 7:27 p.m. on Friday, April 4th, than we were evaluating him at 11 o'clock this morning? Like, is he really a different guy because in one game he's raised his average 100 points and he's raised his OPS close to 200 points? Like, it was one game. So that's where it's hard to talk about these things, because right now you don't know what's real and what's not real. And looking at the stats, they can move in a really big way just from one appearance. But all that being said, clearly, especially before today's game, clearly Nolan Gorman was putting better numbers up than Alec Burleson. So if Burleson puts together the better spring, and that essentially results in him being the guy in the Burleson versus Gorman lineup decision, and Gorman essentially becomes the 10th guy, the first guy off the bench, whatever you want to call it. I mean, that's not really a baseball term, but you understand where I'm going with that. If all that is going to play out, and then for the first week of the season, you're getting more out of Gorman than Burleson, or are we going to start seeing the lineup look differently because of that? Were we going to see Gorman get more opportunities than Burleson? And that's still going to be a question in a week and a half. They call up Thomas Saggese. I think we haven't even talked about this. And again, it's a short-term problem, but you don't want Thomas Saggese on the big league roster if you can't get him some at-bats. And where are those going to come from? Can he get 3 or 4 starts a week? Can he get 6 starts before Nolan Gorman comes back? That's what we're talking about. And the way to do it is easy, because you want to give Lars Nootbaar some time. As great as he's been to start the season, you try to keep him healthy. You want to give him a day. You probably want to give Nolan Arenado a day. He's a guy who's a little bit older, and getting him days off is probably going to be important to this whole thing. Maybe not so much right now because there are so many off days, but sometimes you can stack an off day with an off day from a game with an off day from playing and get a guy 2 straight days off. So that there's a bunch of guys that you can give a day off, and that's going to result in, the same opportunities you had to get Nolan Gorman playing time. You can now do that with Thomas Saggese, but in many ways, it's even more important to find Thomas Saggese an opportunity. The one thing I will say that's a little bit different is you can play Thomas Saggese at shortstop. He's not Mason Wynn at shortstop, but you can play him at shortstop. He is the Cardinals do currently have a backup shortstop on the roster in Thomas Saggese. They did not have a backup shortstop on the roster yesterday, so you can do that if you need to. Jamal Mayers, he talked with Tom Ackerman. We're going to hear that in just a moment here on KMOX.
Start your day with an edge. Total Information AM.
It's like breakfast for your brain.
If they start crying, we get the notifications because of the cameras in their room. Everything in your home, or so many things, need internet. Plus, we're streaming so many more games and programming and everything. That's why you need i3 broadband. It is amazing. 1 gig, 2 gig, 8 gig packages, 8 gigs, upload, download speed mirrored. And I know for myself personally, when I used to get my internet through the cable company, and then I switched to i3, and I switched to i3 before I started telling you about i3, I started saving money. The service is better. You got to see if they're available in your neighborhood. You're going to love it. Put your address in at i3broadband.com. Address in at i3broadband.com.
Do you have 3 ex-wives and your current trophy wife wants a life insurance policy through
Download the iPark It app and drive in and out using only your license plate. Use iPark It for convenience and peace of mind on game day.
The Chris and Amy Show, weekdays starting at 9 on 104.1 FM, KMOX.
Welcome back in. It's a Gray Bar Sports Open Line right here on KMOX. We are getting closer and closer to the Frozen Four going to be taking place over at the Enterprise Center. Semifinals will take place this upcoming Thursday, the 10th, and then the championship game is going to be coming up a week from tomorrow. In the first matchup next Thursday, Denver and Western Michigan going to match up against each other. Former Blue, Jamal Mayers, he is an alum of Western Michigan University, and recently he spoke with our own Tom Ackerman to help preview the Frozen Four. We'll learn a little something about Western Michigan and talk some Blues hockey as well as I hand things off to Tom Ackerman.
Not only played a number of years in the NHL, Stanley Cup champion with Chicago Blackhawks, but he also is a member of Western Michigan playing in the Frozen Four coming up next weekend. I'm sure a lot of memories are flowing back for Jammer. Jammer, thanks for being with us on KMOX.
Oh, glad to be with you. Appreciate it.
It's going to be fun. Western Michigan against Denver and Boston University against Penn State. The Frozen Four coming to Enterprise Center April 10th and 12th. It is a spectacle, isn't it, when those four schools and any of the four get together for the Frozen Four?
It's unbelievably special. It's the first time Western will be in the Final Four, Frozen Four, if you will. And, couldn't be prouder of the school and the team for how well they played this year. In fact, they've been number 3 or 4 all season long. And now they're actually ranked number 1 heading into, the Frozen Four. So it's really exciting for the school.
How are the Broncos? What kind of style do they play, and why are they so good?
Well, they're led by my former captain, Pat Frischweiler, who has experience coaching as an assistant in the NHL with Detroit, and also in the minors with Grand Rapids. They're a big team. They're a big team that can skate. They're a forecheck type of team. They score a lot of goals, and they have a spectacular freshman goaltender. So it's worked out as a good formula for them to have success this past season, and they seem to be on a magical run. In fact, I believe they were down in the NCHC final. They won the regular season crown, but in the final game, they were down heading into the third period, 3-0 to Denver, and scored 3 unanswered goals to send it to overtime, and then won in overtime. So certainly can't spot Denver 3 goals in the semifinal here on Thursday, but I'm hoping that they find a way to get it done.
And they did a great job. Denver did, holding off BC. We know how good they are. BU and Penn State are also in this, with Western Michigan taking on Denver. Western Michigan, located in Kalamazoo, as you mentioned, their first time to the Frozen Four. Last time the Frozen Four was here, Michigan State won it all. That was in 2007. We all know about the history of the University of Michigan and their hockey program. Can you describe, just in that state and really in general, the power of college hockey and how it's felt among the fans?
Yeah, it's special. I mean, obviously you've got Michigan and Michigan State, but there's a lot of schools: Northern Michigan, Western Michigan, Ferris State, Lake Superior State. When I played in that league, it was called the CCHA, and it was the preeminent. Although Hockey East may disagree, it was for a lot of years in the 90s and 2000s where some of the best hockey was played. With the advent of the Big Ten kind of going their own separate way, and the NCHC forming, the dynamics and such had split up a little bit. But Michigan has amazing history of hockey and some schools that have won national championships, and hopefully Western can be added to that list.
Frozen Four is going to be amazing. April 10th and 12th at Enterprise Center. It's going to be an absolute blast. Meantime, Jamal Mayers is with us. He is from the great hockey town of Toronto and has been following the league for a long time. We call him our own, spent a decade as a St. Louis Blue, and I'm getting those vibes again, Jammer. And here they go with this 2019 feel all over again.
It really is. It's, when you have a goaltender of Bennington's ilk, and ever since the Four Nations, he's been a man on a mission. You factor that in with it just appears that everybody has been slotted into the right seat. All four lines are contributing. All four lines are finding a way to be a factor on any given night. And when you have that confidence, they're winning in so many different ways. It's been really impressive and special to watch. They've got the feeling, and you know what? You ride that for as long as you can, and hopefully they can ride that into the playoffs. They certainly appear to have secured a spot in the playoffs. They're in the first wildcard position, so it's amazing how well they played since the break, and the best team in the NHL and scoring a lot of goals and defending well.
And you just mentioned it, four lines all playing well. Can you express the importance of a fourth line playing well for your team, in particular what the Blues are doing right now?
Yeah, it's so important. I think most, any team that has a chance to win, they have four lines, and they have an identity, and that's the nice thing about this line. They know who they are as players. Torpchenko is up at the lead in the entire NHL with his physicality and his hits. He's a big man who has really figured out who he is as a player. Also kills penalties. Radek Faksa, who's played up the lineup a little bit earlier in his career with Dallas. But he is a responsible two-way guy who can play against other teams' top lines. And you got Nathan Walker, who I think has become a fan favorite for not just his diminutive size and the amount of energy that he plays with, but he's absolutely fearless. And I think that when you watch your teammates compete as hard as he does, it makes you and pushes you to do the same. So he drags you into the fight, like a lot of players do. And you're absolutely right. You need four lines to compete, and I think they've been a real important part of what they're doing. I also think the fact that they don't have to play Kyrou and Thomas together has been a blessing, because you're able to spread it over two lines, and you've seen the chemistry that Thomas has now had with Bolduc and Buchnevich, and you've certainly seen the chemistry between Kyrou and Holloway. Makes it a nice 1-2 punch.
You're right. And it all traces back to coaching, doesn't it? I mean, Jim Montgomery just has them playing seamlessly with confidence. He is doing it again. He is coached at a very high level. And what do you see in his direction? What are people saying about Jim Montgomery and what he's done here?
Well, he has an inner confidence as a coach. You can feel his presence when you're watching a game and see him, how he handles himself behind the bench. I think the players appreciate his honesty, appreciate his belief in them. He puts them in a position to succeed, and then he empowers them to take ownership of it. And I think that's all any player really wants. And I think he's mastered a few things. I think that it's one thing to be a technician of who's going on a given night, which I think he has a good pulse of, and he changes the lines as required depending on the game. I think that's an important piece in game. But more importantly, I think that he has a really good sense of the players. Gone are the days where you just, intimidate your players. You have to make sure they know you care before they want to know how much you know. And he has a tremendous balance of those two things. So I think that is his ability to communicate, ability to trust young players and put them in a position to succeed, and then empower the leaders to allow those young guys to flourish. And I think that you're seeing the benefits of allowing that to happen right in front of you, and you're expediting a lot of the young players' growth because of it.
It's really incredible what's happening around here in hockey. The NHL playoffs fast approaching us. The Professional Women's Hockey League had an event here. The ACHA just had their big event here in St. Louis, and now the Frozen Four, the top of all of college hockey, will be here April 10th and 12th. And Jamal Mayer's Western Michigan Broncos are going to be competing in that. Jammer, it's been fun to hang with you for a little bit and talking some hockey on KMOX again. Thank you.
Oh, I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Tom, Jamal, thank you. Great stuff from you guys. Again, Jamal's Western Michigan team going to match up against Denver in the first of 2 games next Thursday in the Frozen Four. Penn State and Boston University, BU, they are going to match up in the second game. And then the championship game is coming up a week from tomorrow over at Enterprise Center. It's going to be such an awesome event to have the Frozen Four once again in St. Louis. We'll take a break. When we return, we wrap up this edition of a Gray Bar Sports Open Line right here on KMOX.
If you are not yet a member of Book Chat with Debbie Monterey and St. Louis Public Library on Facebook, join us today. We just did our monthly author interview, and you can still catch it if you missed it. It's with Viola Ship.
Welcome back to the Gray Bar Sports Open Line. Once again, Matt Pauley on KMOX.
Starting to wrap things up on this edition of a Gray Bar Sports Open Line right here on KMOX. My name is Matt Pauley. We've got Cardinals baseball all weekend long right here on KMOX. Again, tomorrow it's an afternoon game against the Red Sox, and then they'll wrap things up coming up Sunday Night Baseball. Cardinals' first appearance of the year on Sunday Night Baseball, and you'll be able to hear all of it. The voice of the Cardinals, John Rooney and Ricky Horton, will have the call of the game right here on KMOX and across the Cardinals radio network. So we've discussed this a fair amount, but just kind of put a bow on it for our discussion for today. It's not, you're 7 games into the season. So that's why I always have a hard time talking through these things when it's such a small sample size. But at the same time, the bullpen has not been a strength for the team, and it was expected to be a strength for the team. Now, if we're being fair, from an offensive standpoint and from a run scoring standpoint, that has been the strength of the team. This has been one of the better offensive clubs in Major League Baseball through the first week plus, and they weren't really expected to be a really good offensive club right now. So at some point, the offense will start to come back a little bit. At some point, the bullpen will start to push forward, I think. I like many of the arms in the bullpen. I like many of the potential arms in the bullpen that might not be on the big league roster right now. So it's not time to start like freaking out about things yet. I know, like I said it the other day about how the whole, everyone won 60, everyone loses 60, and there's 40 games that you either win or lose that kind of make your season. And I saw some people commenting that, oh yeah, those extra inning losses against the Twins, those are some of those 40 games that determine your season. Maybe not. We'll have to wait and see. I do understand. I can conceptually figure out that games in April mean the same as games in August and games in September. And if you miss the playoffs by 1 game, you're kicking yourself. You're thinking about Brendan Donovan not tagging from third on a throw from Trout and Wright that went high. You're thinking about the pitching just not being very good in a game like today where you score 9. Like there's a bunch of games that kind of accumulate that you start to do the what could have been thing late in the season. And that's always kind of a dangerous place to go down because every team experiences those type of losses over 162 games. It's just the way things happen. And I do believe in this group. Now, something I said all offseason long that I continue to stand by. Last year, the bullpen for the Cardinals was historically good. And Oliver Marmol did a fantastic job managing the bullpen last year. A lot of guys performed at a very, very high level. And it was a big time strength. In some ways, when you're that good, there's some luck involved with it. And that's not me saying that guys weren't good and guys didn't execute pitches, but you can execute a great pitch and there can be a soft little dribbler that comes off a bat that nobody can get to and it turns into a base hit. Like there's always going to be some level of luck that's involved. And generally over 162 games, the luck kind of evens itself out. But to me, it felt like there's a good chance the bullpen maybe takes a half step backwards, but they're still pretty darn good. That was my thought process going into the season. So far, there have been some struggling parts to the group. That being said, I still feel really good about this team taking late leads into the final 3 innings. I think it's clear that the final 3 innings right now, if you have your full bullpen available, will be manned by Ryan Helsley in the 9th, and then the 7th and 8th innings will be taken care of by Phil Maton and Jojo Romero. Those guys have done a nice job. Kyle Leahy has done a nice job. So if you need those high leverage guys to be pitching in close and late situations, I think the Cardinals are in a pretty good place when it comes to all of that. The problem has been that next group of guys has been mostly inconsistent, and I don't know who you really believe in right now. I'm very comfortable with Steven Matz from a long relief standpoint, but he's not really part of this. That's not really what I'm talking about. He's not really a conventional relief pitcher. Of the conventional relief pitchers, a lot of other guys are leaving something to be desired. And the most frustrating thing about that is Ryan Fernandez, because he was being counted on to be one of those late inning guys. Like you would have thought that we would have been talking about him along with Jojo Romero and Ryan Helsley for the 7th, 8th, and 9th. And, Phil Maton would be somebody who could fill into that spot if one of those guys wasn't available or whatever. But Maton, the way he has pitched, clearly he is one of the top 3 relief pitchers out of the bullpen, the way things are going right now. You want to get Fernandez back going. We've talked about Fernandez as possibly being somebody who could be the closer for this team if Ryan Helsley ends up leaving. So Fernandez has the stuff. He just hasn't put it all together quite this year. I still think there's a lot of really key pieces for this bullpen who are not on the roster, who are in Memphis. Maybe they're in Springfield. Tekoa Roby starting today for Springfield. I think he projects out to be somebody that could be in the bullpen and maybe be in the bullpen this year. I was impressed with what we saw from him during spring training for sure. So I think it's going to work out, but there might be some growing pains here at the beginning of the season because right now the bullpen has not been a strength for the Cardinals. And they're pitching a lot. I mean, there's already a bunch of guys were used today. They were in a situation on Wednesday where Sonny Gray was asked to go deeper than you probably would have asked him to go because of the bullpen usage. That was obviously connected to a couple extra inning games before that. But it's just not great where you're a little bit more than a week into the season and you're already questioning how much you have available in your bullpen, and that's kind of where the Cardinals are at here at the moment. That is it for the program today. Thanks so much for being tuned in. It's been a fun day from Cardinals pregame to the Cardinals game to postgame to extra innings to Redbird Rush Hour to the Sports Open Line. We've been busy today with sports here on KMOX, and we of course appreciate everybody who listens in on the FM signal 104.1 FM. Appreciate you being with us today. Have a wonderful evening. I'll be back with you for Cardinals pregame coming up tomorrow right here on KMOX.
At California Psychics, we know that when you haven't found love, it feels like everyone else has.